You're listening to Cap Free Sports Radio, where the takes are bold, the facts are real, and the cap is nowhere in sight. From the locker room to the headlines, we keep it 100 every sport, every time. Let's get into it.
It's now time for Cap Free Sports Theory. Here's your host, Cap Free Never Told a Lie, otherwise known as JWJ Simp, and also known as owner, manager, and player coach of the Kickers Union.
It is Friday, September 5th, 2025. You are listening to Cap Free Sports Theory, and we have one NFL game in the books as the Philadelphia Eagles last night defeated the Dallas Cowboys 24-20. There's plenty from that game. Actually, it is that game that has prompted this impromptu episode of Cap Free Sports Theory, because we aren't necessarily scheduled for a show today, but man, that game really got my brain going. Like, football is low key super addicting. And of course, the Kansas City Chiefs will play tonight in Brazil, so we can preview that game. And also, we do have Kansas playing against Missouri on Saturday afternoon. So there's a little bit to do with that on this episode. And we have several guests. I know of at least 4 guests for sure, and the list may be growing as the show goes on. So, let's get into it.
You're listening to Cap Free Sports Radio. Let's get into it.
So, in regards to this Philadelphia-Dallas game last night, right now, I'm going to hold off on listening to some of my guests' instant reactions from that game so that it does not influence mine, because I took notes during this game. And, well, the game started off, they kicked the ball off to start the NFL season. Philadelphia's fullback is down and hurt, and he's pretty upset, so it might be a significant injury. So there's a little bit of delay in the game because of the injury. And during that, Dallas's offense is on the field huddling up. And we didn't necessarily see this at the time, but I guess Dak Prescott, he spit, just a spit. He wasn't spitting on anybody, but he spit in between 2 of his linemen. And apparently Jalen Carter for Philadelphia assumed that he was spitting towards him, because what we did learn at that time immediately was that, and it's clear as day, Carter walked up to Dak Prescott and spit on Dak Prescott. We're talking 6 seconds into the football game, before a play from scrimmage has even been ran yet. We got flags everywhere. We got the player down. We got flags everywhere. And we learn that Carter is being ejected from the game before we've even ran a play. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm sitting there as the person who's on, Philadelphia to win by some significant amount of points on some no sweat bets. Damn, like, that kind of screws us a little bit, because they're taking away one of Philadelphia's best defenders. If not, some people will tell you that it is their best defender right away before we even play. So Dallas opens the game at their own 47-yard line. They only really got to go 53 yards. And that's exactly what they do in 7 plays in 3 minutes, putting the early 7 points on the board right out the gate. So Dallas's offense is starting off like I got them projected, being like Cincinnati from last year, moving that ball. Philadelphia, though, they do respond fairly quickly. 10 plays, about 5-6 minutes, with a touchdown run by Jalen Hurts. And during this drive, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, man, these Barkley fantasy football owners are going to be in for a frustrating season, not only because of the fact that Hurts is going to snipe a few touchdowns off of Barkley, but Will Shipley got some early work. This is their first drive of the game. He went in there, he had a 5-yard run, and then he had a 20-yard catch to set him up goal to go for that Hurts touchdown. So I'm thinking Barkley owners might be in for a frustrating season here. On the next two possessions, one by Dallas, one by Philadelphia, they both put together significant 11 and 12 play drives worth a significant portion of time. Dallas took a 6-minute drive. Philadelphia had an 8-minute possession. And both ended up with a touchdown by the same person who scored their first touchdown. So we're looking at both teams having 2 drives to start the season. Javonte Williams with 2 touchdowns and Jalen Hurts with 2 touchdowns. So, in my opinion about Barkley giving his frustration to his fantasy owners is still standing in my mind at that time. Dallas would respond to that second Philadelphia touchdown with a field goal of their own on a 10-play, 4-minute drive. Dallas leading 17-14. Philadelphia taking the ball with 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the second quarter. And it doesn't take Philadelphia long at all. Only a minute and 43 seconds in a drive that featured basically all Hurts and Barkley, with the exception of one 51-yard catch by Jahan Dotson. Philadelphia with the touchdown, and it is Barkley, so giving some relief to his fantasy owners at that time. Philadelphia taking the 21-17 lead, leaving Dallas 51 seconds to go in the half. And it's on this drive where Dallas does move the ball and get into position, where I start to notice that I feel like the referees have been slanted a little towards Dallas during this game so far. First of all, you got Carter getting ejected right from the beginning. Then there was a play where Miles Sanders got tackled for a loss, and they called a taunting on the guy, which it's kind of ridiculous, honestly. He may have given a little extra flex, one little extra second of flex that maybe he shouldn't have. But I mean, what are we talking about? You're wanting these guys to sign up for a car crash every Sunday, but when they make a big play, they're not allowed to celebrate it at all. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And then there was a play, I believe on Philadelphia's third touchdown drive, where Hurts scrambles to the right. He gets himself out of bounds. And it isn't much, but it's a little bit of a push. And it could have been just momentum based, but I think a lot of quarterbacks get that call where you can't touch the quarterback out of bounds and lay him on the ground. And I don't know if it was a flop by Hurts on that play, but I just don't see Hurts as that type of guy. So I feel like there could have been a flag on a late hit for Hurts that did not get called. And then, to wrap up this half, Dallas is trying to drive, and obviously they're up against the clock. And there's a situation where, Dallas is calling a timeout. And the TV shows 8 seconds when Dallas got the timeout in. Now, of course, it probably did happen a few seconds before that. So they add a few seconds. But by few seconds, I mean 7 seconds. Almost doubling the game clock from 8 seconds to 15 seconds, which just seems a little crazy. But due to that, Dallas does end up getting a field goal, and we go into the half with Philadelphia leading 21-20. And who could ask for more action than that? I mean, up and down the field, both offenses in the first half. Very, very exciting. That's what got me pumped up for this. For this game, for this season. Can't ask for a lot more. One other note for that first half. I noticed when Jalen Hurts is in a clear passing play, and there may not be someone open, he does wait and try to get somebody open. But when that doesn't happen, Hurts has this escapability and scrambling ability that just, it really reminds me of what Mahomes does on very crucial third downs. It almost, for Mahomes, sometimes it feels like he would rather make sure they get that first down by his legs than to possibly risk throwing it and it not getting caught sometimes. I don't think that's exactly Hurts' thought process, but the way that it looks is, and the way that he gets it every time, it was giving a lot of Mahomes. That's the way I was seeing it. Coming out of the second half, Philadelphia starts with the ball, leading 21-20, and they put together a 10-play drive, taking 6.5 minutes off the clock, and they do end up adding a field goal to extend their lead to 24-20. And that's when Dallas takes the ball, and Dallas runs the ball 9 times and they do not complete a pass. They do not gain any passing yards. I mean, you got Javonte Williams going for 6, 3, 2. Miles Sanders with a 49-yard run. Couple incompletes. And then at the Philadelphia 16-yard line, it felt like this earlier in the game too. It felt like they're not allowing Dak to throw the ball in the red zone, even though he's throwing it all over the field. But due to it being a 3rd and 22, they do allow Dak to throw the ball. They end up getting a penalty to give them 1st and 10 at the Philadelphia 11-yard line. And this is where I'm thinking. This is where I got a little mixed up here. But this is when I'm thinking, let's let Dak throw it in, preferably to Pickens or Lamb right now. But no, the first down play from the 11-yard line is a fumble by Miles Sanders and recovered by Philadelphia. And that is at 4:44 to go in the third quarter. Philadelphia with that 4-point lead, 24-20. And it's at that point where they let us know that we're going to have a weather delay. So, and I'm sitting here, I'm a little salty about it because this game was going good. Both these offenses moving up and down. It's exciting. Plus, this thing's got my brain just exploding with like ideas. I want to talk about this game. And I want to get this podcast going, but I also am a little tired. So it's like, yeah, the earlier this game can get over, maybe I'll get some rest and then we can get this podcast going and all that. So I'm thinking this weather delay, and there's no rain or nothing. It's just what the radar's telling them, or that there's lightning. I'm not certain that I saw any lightning shown on the TV. But I guess if what are we going to do? I'm sitting here thinking this is worse than when the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals quit the game. When they quit the game because neither one of them wanted to take the loss that night because they didn't want to help the Chiefs. Neither one of them wanted to help the Chiefs that time. And that may be a very insensitive stance to take on the night that DeMar Hamlin had his injury and had to go to the hospital. But I mean, I do think there is some truth to that because it's just too convenient how Buffalo and Cincinnati both did not want to lose that night. So, you know how that goes. Anyway, fast forward an hour later, we finally get football back on. I mean, at least these two teams came back on the field, unlike Cincinnati and Buffalo. But, well, I was going to say, it didn't really feel like they came back on the field. That's their offenses, at least. The defenses sure decided to show up after that hour-long weather delay. And Dallas has had, they get the stop after that fumble. And Dallas has had several chances, at least 3 chances. And we're here in the fourth quarter. And on their third chance, Dallas comes up on a fourth down with a little right at 5 minutes to go in the game. And they're punting the ball away, which I can kind of understand. It's fourth down, and you're at your own 27-yard line. It is 4th and 7, so they're punting it away. I am not a big fan of punting the ball away under 5 minutes, specifically against a team that has the ability to run the ball like Philadelphia with Barkley and with Hurts, and apparently with Shipley now as well. So I'm just never a fan of punting when I'm losing under 5 minutes. But it actually ends up okay for Dallas because they do force the immediate 3 and out against Philadelphia. So Dallas is going to get another chance, and there's actually 3 minutes and 2 seconds on the clock still, and they still do have all 3 timeouts. So Dallas does move it a little bit on a 3rd and 5 at their own 23. They hit Pickens for 15. The play after that, though, this is the play. Dak finds Lamb behind Philadelphia's secondary, hits him in the hands, and not only does Lamb not catch it, but he really knocks it up in the air, which makes it even more dangerous, makes it a vulnerability to where it could have been intercepted. Fortunately for Dallas, for the moment, it had not been intercepted. And then after another incomplete pass on a 3rd and 10, Dak found Javonte Williams, and he was able to gain 7 yards, bringing up a 4th and 3. And when that play ended, that 3rd and 10 turning into a 4th and 3, it was 2 minutes and 33 seconds on the clock. And he was tackled inbounds, so the clock's running. We got 4th and 3. What needs to happen here is Dallas needs to snap that ball and complete that play before the 2-minute warning comes, because if you don't get it, if you don't convert the 4th down, you don't pick up the 3 yards, you got at least 2 minutes and 1 second on the clock, you've now afforded yourself an additional timeout for defense. And in 2025, with all the way analytics has run wild across all sports, but heavily in football, I'm shocked that wasn't more of an urgent effort for Dallas to try to get that play snapped and completed before that 2-minute warning, because naturally they do not convert the 4th down, and they do give the ball back to Philadelphia, and they do not have that 2-minute warning additional timeout, but they do have their 3 timeouts. So it's not over, but if Philadelphia gets a first down, it's going to be over, right? Well, Philadelphia takes that ball. They actually lose a yard on first down. And on 2nd and 11, they choose to throw it, and it's thrown to A.J. Brown for 8. And then Hurts is able to scramble on the 3rd and 3 for the 4 yards. And it's like I'm saying, it's so similar to Mahomes. When it's that huge play, he does not mind doing it with his legs at all. And I do think Hurts is more regarded as a better runner than Mahomes, probably. But it's low key a hidden, somewhat secret aspect of Mahomes' game, that when it's that big 3rd down, you almost could feel that Mahomes is gonna run for it when it's time. So, yeah. I'll rewind in a few seconds before Philadelphia took over on this on their last drive where they ended up getting that first down and icing the game. So Lamb had that huge drop on the 1st and 10 play, which was going to be a huge game and put Dallas in great position to go and win the game. And then it came down to that 4th and 3 where Dallas should have snapped it before the 2-minute warning and all that. Well, on that 4th and 3, Dak threw a deep ball to Lamb, who had to dive out. I think he got his hands on it again, but of course did not come up with it. And the crazy thing is, Lamb had a reasonably good statistical game, but he had a few drops that might stand out more than his 7 catches for 110 yards. And on the 4th and 3, you can definitely blame Lamb for the one he didn't catch on the deep one on 1st and 10 that would have changed the game at the end. On the 4th and 3, it's kind of tough to blame Lamb for having to dive out for that ball. And the other part about that is, it's one of my most hated pet peeve things. You got 4th and 3. Why are you throwing the ball 30 yards down the field? You need to find 3 yards. In fact, you need to be like Jalen Hurts, and you need to be like Patrick Mahomes, Mr. Prescott, and you need to run for those 3 yards. That way, you're not putting the ball in the hands of Lamb, who's shown, despite 7 catches and 110 yards, he's showing some signs of butterfingers here tonight. I think you got to pick that one up with your legs if you can do it. Or find somebody on a shorter route. 4 yards is okay there. You don't need 40. So, Philadelphia ends up winning the game 24-20, despite the fact that it was 21-20 at halftime. So, the first half was nonstop back and forth up and down the field. The first half, Philadelphia did score the field goal on their first possession, and Dallas was inside the Philadelphia 15-yard line on their first possession of the second half, but then they fumbled, then there was the weather delay, and then there was just basically nothing but punts going on. And yeah, the game really was affected, at least the way the game was played was affected by that weather delay. So, I don't know. Is it time to make it mandatory for all NFL stadiums to have a roof option at least? I don't necessarily love that idea at all, because the elements is part of football and always has been and always will be. I mean, you look, Buffalo's building a new stadium and they're leaving it outside, as they should. Why wouldn't they? That's part of an advantage for them. But then on the flip side, you got Cleveland, who also has similar weather up there in the northeast to how Buffalo does. But they're building a whole new complex with a roofed stadium. I'm not certain if I think it's well, it may be retractable, but it's always up there, you know. So, I mean, but the thing is, if for your city, if you build the stadium with the roof on it, now you can attract the Final Four, WrestleMania, other big indoor events, and we're talking year round. Like Cleveland a few years ago was able to have SummerSlam there. But it's very unlikely, although New York was able to do it, but it is New York. It's just unlikely that Cleveland could ever have a WrestleMania in the beginning of April, you know, in the Northeast Ohio weather. So that's why these people want to build dome stadiums now. Plus, you don't ever have to have weather delays and cancel the games and things like that. So, I don't know if I'm for dome stadiums or not. I love the elements of football, but you know what I love almost as much is not having an hour-long weather delay interrupt the pace and the flow of the football game that was originally super entertaining. So, I don't know. I might be switching over to the point where I would prefer the dome stadiums being a requirement for any new stadiums being built. And don't be shocked if that is a thing. But then back to this Philadelphia-Dallas game, wrapping that up, you get the post-game interview, and you got Jalen Hurts. And I got to be honest, it's pretty impossible not to appreciate the way that Jalen Hurts approaches everything. It's in the most humble and subtle way. Hurts is clearly letting everybody know that it's not me against Barkley out here. We're on a team. We got a common goal. We're a package deal. You can vote for him for them MVPs all you want. No big deal. It will not offend me. Hurts is here to work and do his job. He called it the yin yang, where he specifically said that they got a common approach, but they express it differently. And I do think that makes a lot of sense. It really does. But since for a long time, I really appreciated Hurts. I do not appreciate how Hurts beat my Chiefs' ass in the Super Bowl. But what are you going to do? Like, you going to ask him not to do that? It's his job. That's what he had to do that day. So, I mean, sure, Hurts is in a very fortunate situation. That is a great team, a great offensive line, a pretty great defense at all three levels. And then, giving them an embarrassment of riches when they went and got Barkley last year. That's on the New York Giants, I mean. But that's a lot of teams that have let Philadelphia do what they do. So it is no shock that Philadelphia is going to open the season 1-0. I think you could give Dallas a lot of credit for playing them, like it was a even match for basically most of the game. Definitely in the first half. And then Philadelphia had the same chances Dallas did in the second half to try to extend that lead out farther than 4 points. And Dallas's defense was continuing to make stops. So I really don't know how much I like Dallas this season long term altogether. But you can't really be too mad at them for the way that they played in this game tonight. And then to continue to give Dallas, a little bit of credit while they're kind of, even though they lost like they generally do, just to give them a little bit of credit while we still can before their season probably gets way out of hand. I mean, Jerry Jones is not looking entirely crazy with the way Kenny Clark was playing last night. The guy was making a lot of plays, really, he was. And then they added 2 first-round picks. Dallas is avoiding having to pay 50% of their salary cap into 3 players. 3 players on a 53-man roster taking half of the money. That can't be good. And then the rumors are Parsons is not 100% healthy. And he's gonna have to take epidurals before games to play. And I mean, I don't know how long that was sustainable, but we'll see. Parsons healthy. Parsons is a great player. We'll just see how it works out. I think a lot of people want that trade to not make sense for Dallas. But if you allow your mind to be open, getting 2 extra first-round picks, maybe you say they could have got more than 2 first-round picks, and maybe you're right. But the Clark guy, he clearly showed he could play tonight. So, I mean, he is 10 years in, so he's a little older. But the 2 first-round picks, you get that. But I think the keyest thing is not having to take up 50% of your cap space on 3 guys. Because you're gonna have to hit Well, I mean, you wouldn't have those extra picks because you'd still have Parsons. But you're going to have to hit on your draft picks if you did keep Parsons and use all that cap space on that. So I think, which side would I have done between keeping Parsons or letting him go? Woo, it's tough. That really is tough. Because I would say the day the Chiefs traded off Tyreek Hill, I was not initially excited at all about that. I thought that spelled the end for the Chiefs' run at the top. And we're talking about that would have meant the Chiefs would have just had the one Super Bowl win, and they would have been going backwards because they would have won in 19 the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl in 2019, lost the Super Bowl in 2020, and then lost the AFC Championship in 2021 before trading off Hill. But then, after you look at what the Chiefs ended up doing in that draft and the way that they brought in Juju that year, it came out to an overall net positive. I don't think they drafted Rice that year. They may have, but they definitely got Karlaftis and McDuffie that year, and actually Leo Chenal, Brian Cook, and Jalen Watson. I mean, yeah, they got significant defensive contributors while also freeing up not having to pay Hill all that money and eating up all their cap space and just being tied into that. Plus, yes, Hill did have a crazy first year with Miami, 22. And he wasn't too bad in 23, except Tua was always hurt. Actually, I think he was struggling in 23 because Tua was out. But last year, he just wasn't that good at all. We'll see what happens with Hill this year, but I mean, he doesn't get any younger. So, while I didn't love the Hill trade right off the bat, a few months later, I was more open to it. Once they signed Juju and they drafted who they drafted, I was like, okay, this is a net positive. Plus, they still got a little money to spend if they need to. So, that's just the way it goes sometimes. So, what I'm saying is, maybe Jerry Jones isn't as foolish as everyone would like to think that he is. Yes, they ain't won for 30 years. We get it. But Dallas ain't the only team that hasn't won for 30 years. There's some teams like Buffalo and Cincinnati that have never won. You know what I mean? So, that is what it is. So, anyways, Philadelphia wraps up Game 1 of the NFL season. They're 1-0. Dallas is 0-1. Philadelphia is coming to Kansas City next week. Dallas will head back home to Dallas to host the New York Giants. And at this time, we're going to bring in Josh for his instant reaction from NFL game number 1 between Philadelphia and Dallas.
My reaction to that game is the Cowboys aren't as bad as we think they are. If that storm didn't come in, I think this game was going to be a shootout. Everybody got to go in the locker room and do adjustments and figure out what Dak was doing. Dak played a really good game. If Dallas has a run game, they're going to be better. I would be worried if I were an Eagles fan. That defense does not look great. A.J. Brown with one catch. It's Saquon and Hurts, and that's it. Nobody else. And soon the A.J. Brown problem will come to a head. He's a diva, and just wait. If this happens again, a couple more games, it's going to come to light. Sloppy game towards the second half after the storm. First half was real fun, explosive. CeeDee Lamb is still CeeDee Lamb. He could be Jamar Chase level again. Dallas's defense is going to be in shootouts all year long. But the Eagles didn't look much better. So when they play again week 12, it will be probably very different teams. But it was a fun Thursday night game.
And I did forward that message from Josh to the Eagles superfan and expert on everything Eagles, LeVar, who we've had on the show before, to try to get his reaction from what Josh was saying. I think we may have just missed LeVar, which is so unfortunate, but I'll try to step in to his spot somewhat here. And I would say Philadelphia still looked like they pretty much controlled that game. Although it also did look like they did benefit from that storm, at least to slow down Dallas's offense. Same time, Philadelphia's offense was moving good in that first half too. And even their first possession in the second half, they got points. So I think Philadelphia was okay. I never really thought they would lose that game. But at the end, I was thinking, hey, Dallas might steal this thing. But, of course, that didn't happen because it's Dallas. But as far as the A.J. Brown thing goes, I was already saying that ahead of time. I mean, A.J. Brown is a guy I didn't take nothing, no shares of in best ball even. I even looked at one share for $1. I for sure would never take A.J. Brown in a real league. It's too up and down for the draft spot he's supposed to go in. And yeah, he's not going to stay happy not getting the ball. Like, that's just not the way things work. Now, maybe winning helps that, but I don't think so. Now, I don't think he's as much of a diva as the guys we've seen in the past, like Terrell Owens. Even like Chad Johnson's a diva in his own way. Randy Moss was a diva in his own way, but like T.O. was like the poster boy for like, I need the ball. I don't know if A.J. Brown's all the way there, but he's for sure never going to be okay with not getting the ball at all. Like, yeah, that will, if that continues that way, I think even if they are winning, you're going to hear about it. And I just wouldn't be shocked if it continues like that. I'm saying by week 6, you could actually see A.J. Brown on the move to a different team, possibly. So I do agree with that from Josh.
You're listening to Cap Free Sports Radio.
Switching gears briefly back to the CFL that we talked about heavily about the draft yesterday. We asked Charlie what did he think about how his draft went. And this is what Charlie had to say.
You know, at the time of the draft, I was looking at my draft when we got done, looking at my team, and I'm like, damn, this is nice, you know. And then it kind of humbled me a little bit looking at the ESPN grade, and it gave me a C, thinking that I was, you know, I mean, it doesn't mean anything, of course. I know it doesn't, but it's just like, I was like, this is an A grade right here. It should be an A draft right here. And it came back C. So then I went back and looked at my draft and looked at my team, and like, I do like it. I think I could have made a couple other choices in different positions, but I feel like it's a competitive team, and I might have to do a couple waiver wire pickups, but for right now, it's competitive. Let's see what happens.
And now Charlie would go on to give a reply about my inquiry about his Cortland Sutton for my Isaiah Pacheco in a trade, and maybe even including Chris Godwin to make it nice for Charlie. Because I got Bo Nix and I just want that stack.
As far as Cortland Sutton goes, like I liked Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix this year. I didn't get Nix. You did, of course. But I was higher on them than I am on Pacheco and Godwin. I don't know. Godwin, it's just personal bias. But in previous years, you know, he's underperformed for me. Even though he's been a decent receiver in the league, But fantasy-wise, kind of underperformed in crucial weeks where I needed them, so I'm just a little biased. So, and it's only week 1. I ain't trying to jump the gun on anything.
You're listening to Cap Free Sports Radio, where the takes are bold, the facts are real, and the cap is nowhere in sight.
So I think everybody knows by now, at least I hope you do, that Kansas and Missouri will play a football game this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. in Columbia, Missouri. For the first time since 2011, so 14 years ago. Now, this should be the first time that they are not conference foes. They're definitely not in the same conference anymore. They were the last time they played. They used to play every year. Kansas and Missouri have already brought back the basketball rivalry for a few years now. And it's finally time that the football game is going to occur. Now, it is disputed what the all-time record is between Kansas and Missouri in football. And we're going to give it over to Terry, our artificial intelligence expert, to see what he's found about the controversy with Kansas and Missouri all-time head-to-head record in football.
All right, let's settle one of the pettiest debates in college football history. Kansas versus Missouri, the 1960 game. Here's the scene. Kansas beats Missouri 23-7. Jayhawks celebrate like they just won the lottery, strutting around saying, "We ended your perfect season." Except small problem, they used an ineligible player, Bert Cohn. Yep, that's the name that launched 60 years of arguments. So the Big 8 conference steps in, and they're like, "Nice try, Kansas. That's a forfeit." They officially award the win to Missouri. End of story, right? Wrong. Kansas still points to the NCAA record book, waving it around like it's proof of life. See? It still says we won. Yeah. And my driver's license still says I weigh 175. Doesn't make it true. The fact is, the Big 8 was the governing body at the time. Their ruling is what counts. And by their ruling, Missouri gets the W period. That's why Missouri says the series is 57-54-9. Meanwhile, Kansas is over here with the playground logic of, well, if you ignore the time we cheated, then actually we're ahead. Sorry, Jayhawks. That's not how sports work. So when it comes to the all-time series, Missouri leads. End of debate. And honestly, that's what makes this rivalry so beautiful. It's fueled not just by football, but by 60 years of pure, uncut pettiness.
That was Terry yet again with a masterpiece from the AI department, the artificial intelligence expert, here on Cap Free Sports Theory. And at this time now, I need to kick it to Kansas superfan Kyle Martin. And let's see where Kyle stands on this upcoming Kansas and Missouri football game and the Kansas and Missouri rivalry in general.
I'm pretty fired up about this game Saturday afternoon. Man, I think both teams have the potential to be really good this year. And, I mean, it's Kansas and Missouri. I don't know how you can't be excited, but it's one I've had marked on my calendar since they released the schedule a few seasons ago. I know if you ask Kansas City, you might get mixed reactions about this game. Half and half saying play it, half saying don't play it. But like I said, both these teams can be really good this year. So let's bring it back. Let's bring that rivalry back, even if they're in two different conferences and the deep-rooted meaning isn't there anymore. It's still fun and it should be good football. Rock chalk.
And that was Kansas superfan Kyle Martin. Anytime there's anything Kansas related, if I have a genuine question, I'll go through Kyle for it. He's going to know the answer about the history of Kansas, about the future of Kansas, about the current of Kansas. And yeah, I mean, I I guess I should let everybody know I am for sure not a Kansas fan. I'm on the other side. I like Missouri. And most of the time I hate Kansas. I mean, I hate their basketball for sure. Basically because they're just too good. Anytime we ever had a good team, uh, maybe we could be good enough to split the season series with them back in the day when we would play twice. But we were really never able to beat them, both times. I think we did beat them this last year in basketball, though. But, you know, neither one of them ended up making much of a run in March. And what's the crazy thing, though, this particular football game coming up, Kansas is building themselves a decent little football program. Lance Leipold, and he's got them in the right position. Daniels is for me, he's a big question mark. If he's on, they're tough to beat. But he can also not be on sometimes and hurt a lot. And then Missouri, they got a whole regime change at quarterback. So the guy looked good in the 61-6 win that they had, but that wasn't really a game. So, like, Missouri's first game of this season of like being really tested is going to come against Kansas. So that could be dangerous. Kansas already has 2 wins under their belt. One was a real win against Fresno State. The other win, see, I'm a little slacky right now. I need to get on my game. But that's the thing. It actually worries me a little that Kansas might be on equal footing for Missouri, because Kyle's saying both these teams could be good this year, and I agree, they both could be good. I don't know what Missouri's ceiling is this year because they got a new quarterback. They're going to obviously play in the SEC. It's going to be tough, so we'll see. I would prefer to think that Missouri would be superior in football, while Kansas remains obviously superior in basketball. But I do think it's open for Kansas. I think if this game was being played in Kansas' new stadium, I might even lean that Kansas should win the game. So that's the crazy thing. I guess I feel fortunate that they're playing it in Columbia. I'm curious why they don't just play the thing at Arrowhead like they used to. And the other thing I was thinking, why are they playing this game in week 2? Why isn't this game being played at the end of November like it used to be played at Arrowhead? And you can't tell me just because they're in the different conferences that it can't happen, because Florida and Florida State play that week every year. Clemson and South Carolina play that week every year. It definitely can be a thing. And I think that in the future they should push for that, because you really don't know who your teams are. When you're a college team, there's so much turnover, especially now with the transfer portal. There's so much turnover that if you play later in the year, you'll know who you guys are. So that's just me. I'm looking for the Missouri win. I'm hoping for the Missouri win. I would probably have to bet on Missouri. They are an SEC team, so I got to roll with that. MIZ.
You're listening to Cap Free Sports Radio.
And not to do too much of an injustice to the amazing Kansas City Chiefs, I know we're all excited, but I do feel like if the Eagles game garnered that much reaction from me, I'm sure that I'll probably be back with something tomorrow after the Chiefs play tonight in their first game of the season against the San Diego Chargers, and they're playing in Brazil. And I would be lying if I told you that I didn't get worried every time I play San Diego. Every time we play San Diego, every time the Chiefs play San Diego, I feel like it is, open for the Chargers to win. I mean, last year, Chiefs were down 10-0. They won 17-10. They lost Rashee Rice that day. And then later in the season, the Chiefs won by 2 on a single doink field goal that went in by the backup kicker. So, and that was to clinch the division late in the year. So, I mean, it's always a one-score game with the Chargers. There was one a few years ago where it was like late in the season on a Thursday night, road game in LA, and if whoever won was going to be in the driver's seat for the division, and the Chiefs had to keep fighting to come back and come back and come back, tie that game, force overtime, and then Kelsey just absolutely came alive in that second half and overtime and just totally went crazy. And that was after Derwin James left the game. As you also remember, Derwin James body slammed Kelsey that time. And then if you remember, when Jalen Watson played his first game, he had that pick six, or it might have been the second game of that year on the Thursday night that time as well. Pick six to when the Chargers were going in to take the lead in the fourth quarter. That totally changed the tie game from the Chargers taking a lead to the Chiefs taking the lead. So I'm telling you, the Chargers are always knocking on the door. Most of the time, as with most games against Mahomes in general, and most especially division games against Mahomes, they just don't quite kick that door in. So I'm certain that the Chargers will be looking to try to start their season on the right foot. And it does worry me a little, but I mean, my pick is in. I'm picking the Chiefs. I mean, I don't know if they can win 15 games this year, but I think the Chiefs have figured out Buffalo and Baltimore is going to be, high win total teams. And the Chiefs, while they did successfully guide themselves through the playoffs on the road the year before last and through the Super Bowl, I certainly think that the Chiefs prefer having their playoff games inside Arrowhead. Just because, I mean, it's comfortable, it's loud, you sleep in your own bed. And it's supposed to be the Arrowhead Invitational for as long as we have Mahomes. And so, with that said, the Chiefs, they know there's not a lot of leeway to mess around in the regular season, and that's why even if it is a one-score game, the Chiefs find ways to win that. And I do believe that there is a Mahomes revenge tour loading, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes tonight. And we probably will overreact to this one game. Well, if we lose, we will overreact to it. I'll say that. And if we win, it's just like we're supposed to. But I would say this. I'm going to enjoy this season. Last season was completely miserable because the only goal was to win the whole thing and do a three-peat. And that was just ends up being terrible that way. So yeah, it'll be nice to finally be able to enjoy each game this year because it's like we know it ain't guaranteed to win at the end. And not that it ever was, but we were winning 2 Super Bowls in a row, and all you ever hear about is three-peat. It's similar to the year in 2020 where they kept saying, run it back, run it back. So guess what? The whole year, win, 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 win. 14-1, rest the last game, go to the Super Bowl and get stomped. So that whole run it back and three-peat, tying one season into the last season before, we shouldn't do that anymore. We should enjoy the season that we're in and take it for what it is and enjoy each game, because this era is kind of turning fairly quickly. I don't know if we're over the halfway point yet or not. I'd like to think not quite, but yeah, I mean, it's time to enjoy these games and not be completely miserable because the only result that would ever be acceptable is winning the third Super Bowl in a row. Like, yeah, so it'll be nice to finally enjoy the Chiefs again. So, should be fun. NFL season is underway. This is going to make for a lot of great content. T.Y. Hilton, boy!